This is an official announcement from the Podcast Tonight Awards. Your favourite show that you're listening to right now has been officially nominated for a Podcast Tonight Award. But the power is in your hands. Amongst other categories, this show is in the running for the prestigious Listener's Choice Award, and they need your vote to win. You can show your support and help them get the recognition they deserve. The link to vote is in their show notes and bio. Go now and make your voice heard. This has been a message from Podcast Tonight, celebrating the best in audio.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Harford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch affairs today.
It's probably the least sexy part of the work. It's okay. No. The truth is,
Tony DeMaio is the heart behind Helping Heroes USA, a mission-driven organization working to stop veteran suicide by showing veterans something many of them haven't felt in years: real connection, real support, and someone who refuses to give up on them. After thousands of raw conversations with veterans carrying invisible wounds, Tony has become a lifeline for those who feel unseen. His work, inspired by his own service dog, Coco Bear, is built on compassion, mentorship, and the belief that every veteran deserves a hand to hold when the darkness hits. Today, he's here to remind us that one voice, one moment, one act of care can truly save a life. I want to say that again. Everybody, please listen to this. One voice, one moment, and one act of care can truly save a life. And you've heard me talk about that before, some of the things I've done, and where people just say that we saved their life. So, Tony, first of all, how's it going, man?
It's great. Having a great day out here. I'm out in not so sunny California today. we need the rain, so it's a great day.
Yeah. All right. So I want to. All right. You and I were talking in the green room before, because a lot of times when people think of nonprofits and American Legion and all that, a lot of people figure that you're a veteran, but you're not. So explain how you got tied up. Let's go with the Legion before we talk about Helping Heroes. How you got tied up in the Legion. That doesn't sound right. Yeah. Let me say connected with the American Legion.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, how I got involved in the whole veteran space was I was consulting to an organization called Project Hero, Ride to Recovery. And what we do is do cycling events and take veterans. So we'll take 200 veterans and we'll ride 1,000 miles in a week, 700 miles in a week. And so,
wow.
Like we do a leg from San Antonio, Texas to Houston, or Jacksonville, Florida to Atlanta. And we'd have 150, 200 veterans and their service dogs on these bike rides. And the whole purpose of that was there's a cycle in suicide and the whole process, is that people get isolated.
Yeah.
One thing, they start to get isolated, and then they get depressed. And then that depression starts to bring on maybe drugs and alcohol. And then we see suicide. So the major thing was to get guys involved, men and women involved in these cycling events, and get them to create their own little support groups. And so we start to have support groups. So I was apprehensive when I took on the consulting project because I wasn't a veteran.
Right.
But what I learned was that talking to veterans and listening to their stories, they were just grateful that you were there to help them, whether you're a veteran or not.
Yep.
And I think that was an important lesson for me, because what we advocate now with Helping Heroes is, having a lot of people have their radar up to realize that there's people out there hurting. And so many times I hear, and one of the things I want to mitigate is hearing, I just wish I would have known, if I really would have known. So we decided to create a toolbox to help people know. And that's a lot of what my book is about. And that's a lot of what we do symposiums and workshops, is to get the word out so that we have more people aware that they may be a coworker or the family member. There's somebody in their community that's really hurting and on the verge, they're trying to reach out, just come out and say it. But if you have your radar up, you start to hear certain things, and you can understand their behavior. So that's what we teach, and that's what we're working on, is to get a group of people, and we call them support angels, that are aware that somebody's at risk.
So when did Helping Heroes start?
2017.
Oh, wow. So you're not that old yet. Not even 10 years old yet.
Pretty close,
Yeah, almost. Yeah. Wow.
We're all getting old. But when we started, one of the reasons why I started Helping Heroes USA was to take and also look at other activities except for just cycling. So we've done a lot of golf clinics. We've done a lot of golf tournaments. We partner up with a lot of nonprofits. Our mission is really, the only service that we deliver is suicide prevention. But we do partner up with other folks that are doing affordable housing for veterans. And that's a big space for us. So that's a long way to not answer your question, how did I get involved with the American Legion? The way I got involved with the American Legion was I have a business partner that I've known for 20 years, and his name is Amato Salinas. He's very active in the American Legion. He's the national congressional representative for the Legion. He's the judge advocate for the state of California. I mean, he's like a million.
Okay.
So Amato invited me down to the Legion, which I'll never forget him. I won't forgive him for doing this. But anyways, he said, listen, they need some help. They need some marketing help. And they need a way to drive membership and help and retention. So my podcast company, Big Media USA, we started producing digital magazines and podcasts for the Legion. And then we got involved in building websites for them and dealing with their social media. And so I was put on several committees. Now I'm on a national committee for the Legion, and I'm on the Department of California Communications Committee. And so we've been involved in the with the Legion, helping them, a lot of marketing materials. We put together one of the fundraising documents for Boys and Girls State. And
oh, wow.
So, there's the good news and the bad news about working in the Legion, though. It's all independent. Each is independent, and the commanders turn over quite a bit.
Yep.
They're only in there for a year. So a lot of times a guy wants to start a project. By the time you get it started, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of things that we do on Helping Heroes, we just take and we do them and then sort of gift them to the Legion, because it's hard to work through. And I'm not bad-mouthing them. I'm just saying we found that we can work better as an agency working with them than trying to work through them.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. So working in the space, suicide prevention, there's some things that we found. We talked about one pattern when we see people in isolation and then they get into depression. That's one thing that happens. And but we're a program that helps people identify what are some of the drivers that get people into that situation and help you get your radar up. So some of the things that happen is, number one, is that there's a vet or a first responder that's had a horrific event happen to them. So it's event driven. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the way, whether it's they didn't get the last person out of a burning building or a buddy got shot or whatever that story is that they're carrying around. Right. That's a driver. Other things that happen are financial barriers, financial problems. Now, I'm near 29 Palms Marine Base, and what happens is I find, and we're working with some guys right now, they've been deployed. Mm-hmm. They come back and they have a hard time getting employment. Then on top of that, they end up getting divorced, and then they end up in child custody battle. Yeah. So it's a whole sequence of things that starts to happen to them that drive them into depression. And that's when you need to reach out. Just reaching out sometimes and talking to somebody and not being judgmental. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we work with, there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of attitude people have about somebody that's in jeopardy. And so in my book, just came out, Silent Battle, we talk about how to identify some certain things. When people are getting depressed or things that they're saying. Then number two is how to engage into a meaningful conversation. So it might be something like, are you okay? As opposed to, boy, I really noticed you're feeling depressed lately,
Yeah.
coming from judgment. So that's a critical piece, because if you can enter into the conversation and then start to develop a conversation and check on somebody, just so they know you care.
Yeah.
So I have, the American Legion has a program. It's called Be the One.
Mm-hmm.
It's veterans reaching out to veterans. I think where we take off on is it may not be a veteran that's the closest person to a veteran.
True. That is true.
So it's going to be a family member. It's going to be a buddy, a fishing buddy, golf buddy, somebody that maybe has not been a veteran, and how to deal with that. It's okay to approach somebody. It's okay to be, asking them how they feel and let them know that you care about you. You care about them, and we talk about other things too, like the number one thing involved in somebody taking their life are firearms.
Yeah.
And, especially in the veteran first responder space, law enforcement, we've got a lot of folks that have a lot of firearms.
Mm-hmm.
And so how to have that discussion and maybe get that firearm away from them on hold for a little bit while they're feeling bad, while they're feeling depressed, maybe get it into a safe that you have the combination on, something like that. But those are things that if your radar's up and you're understanding that, it's a lot easier to work with somebody than if you just, again, I can't tell you how many times you hear, if I only would have known. If I only would have known, I would have done more.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But now once you go through one of our talks or, our seminars, then you know more.
Right. Exactly. Which is important.
Right.
And the thing is, you mentioned something too, and like with Be the One, where it's veterans talking to other veterans. And I found this out the hard way. I started another podcast years ago called Lifetime Oath. And the goal was to get veterans on had two goals really, but to get veterans on and first responders, active military that were having problems, whether it be PTSD or, any other type of mental health problems, because I figured they'd be more comfortable talking to other veterans. I found out that's not always the case. That's not always the case at all. And well, needless to say, that podcast did not work the way I wanted it to, so I no longer do it. But it's funny. I mean, you hear that a lot. People say, well, veterans will talk to other veterans. Veterans will talk to other veterans, but not about everything. Not about it. Because one of the things we learned when like for me in the Marine Corps, we don't talk about our problems.
Right.
If we had depression, we don't tell another guy that, because first of all, they're going to tell us to suck it up.
That's right.
Yeah. But talking to I found out when you talk to somebody else that's not a veteran, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So what we've done, you hit on an important point while you were talking there about your podcast. When I started the suicide prevention symposiums, it was really built for family and friends.
Right.
And in there, we would get some people undercover that were suicide candidates. So now we've changed our marketing strategy, and this was sort of an experiment, and I knew this was coming. I'll give you an example. When I used to own a company called Lifetime Management. We did time management and sales seminars for big corporations.
Okay.
And then they'd have somebody come in and they wanted to talk about credit cleanup. Well, nobody wanted to walk down that hallway and go to that workshop on credit cleanup because they didn't want anybody to know they had bad credit.
Exactly.
So nobody wants to go to an event saying, I'm thinking about suicide. Mm-hmm. So we've created more of our taglines to be more of from adversity to accomplishment, to be talk about improving your life as opposed to stopping thinking about taking your life. Mm-hmm. So we've had a shift in our marketing, and next year we're not going to be doing suicide prevention. We're going to be doing success-driven workshops that are for people that have maybe come into adversity. And so we're changed and I knew this going in. It was sort of a test saying suicide prevention. But anyway, I'm happy that we did our research and now we're moving forward. But that's the truth, is that just a couple of reasons. Guys don't want to seem weak. They don't want to kind of give up their power to somebody. And that's the way that's, as men, big boys don't cry, suck it up. We also talk about knowing who to go to. I mean, if you're in a position where you've got thoughts of suicide, you've got some friends that you're going to go to and say, I broke my leg and I'm going to go suck it up. And, you got other friends that are going to go, well, how can I help you? Give you a little there.
Yeah.
So don't go share with it. Somebody's going to tell you to suck it up. We need suck it up people, but it may not be the right time at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one of the things people got to realize when it comes to mental illness. You got to be careful what you say to the person.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful. It's like, what do they say? Treading on thin ice.
Correct. Yeah. You've got to, what I found, actually, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I found that the best way to really handle this is to just be a good listener.
Thank you. Yes.
So, and knowing what questions to ask, for example, somebody said, well, I'm depressed, or, I don't know. And so, well, you don't know, but let's think about it. What do you know? What's really bothering you? Because really deep down inside, every person has an answer. And if you're a good interviewer, you can extrapolate that.
Yeah.
And they know what it is. They know what's holding them back. And they might say they don't know. When I was in the seminar business, somebody say, I don't know. And you say, well, if you did know, what would it be? It's a little harsh, but it's
I like that though.
Yeah, it cuts right through the chase. I mean, somebody says,
yeah,
well, if you did know, what would it be? And then they start thinking, well, this is really what it is. It's either a money problem, it's a relationship problem, it's a health problem. One of the things that we found working with, female veterans, I think, are the most underserved part of the veteran population. And we found there wasn't a lot of things available for them the way there are for male veterans. So a lot of times you're also working with, and I was just interviewed on a podcast by a female veteran, is they're dealing with maybe an injury, but they're also dealing with some sort of sexual abuse or sexual harassment.
Yep.
And so it's hard for them then to reach out into that community because they have a lot of feelings that come up on that. A lot of times you'll see sometimes there's some of the signs are for men and women, but personal hygiene just goes away.
Yeah.
They start to not take care of themselves.
Oh, wow.
And so you start to see somebody that all of a sudden, maybe they really, they always dress really nice, or they, woman had her hair fixed or makeup, and all of a sudden that goes away. And that's a process. That's part of a process that's starting. So personal hygiene is a clue a lot of times.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Another clue is they'll start to give away things. Like you may have a series of medals or something, and you start to give them away. You just go, here, I'm not going to need these anymore. And they give away some of their possessions, and that's a sign that. Oh wow! Sometimes I'll give you an example. One Saturday we finished a cycling ride. We rode like 60, 70 miles, and a bunch of us guys are in the parking lot. And we're putting our bikes on our cars or whatever we're doing, and one of our buddies goes, "Hey, how about if I take you guys to lunch?" Well, a bunch of guys there, We go, I don't know. Everybody's going, no. And he goes, well, it might be the last time we get together. So like, okay, well, wait a minute. So then, 4 or 5 of us went to lunch. And so there's things that people say that are a little reaching out for help. And if you have your radar up, you'll get them, or if you don't, you won't. I'll give you another example is isolation. And now I live in a 55 plus community out here. We've got a couple golf courses with that. And by the way, I just made it in. No, I'm kidding. But
I would have believed you.
Yeah. So when I'm out in the mornings, I'm out walking my service dog. We walk for an hour and a half every morning. And I'll have somebody come up to me and they'll start talking. And I used to be the kind of guy to go like, okay, this is an hour of my life I'm never going to get back again. But then I started realizing I might be the only person they see for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And they need to talk, and you need to listen, because that connection is something I need. I kind of learned that from my dad. My dad lived to be 90. My mom had died 20 years prior to that, so he was alone.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a routine. So every Wednesday, he lived in Burbank. Every Wednesday, he would take his car to the garage, drive it down to the car wash, and then drive it back and put it away for the week. But he got out and talked to all the folks at the car wash. That was a fun thing for him. Then he'd get his different pension checks. He worked for Disney for 21 years, and he would get them, and he'd go to the bank. And my sisters wanted to get him to have a direct deposit. And I said, no, that's his deal. That's a thing for him, man. He gets dressed up and he goes out and he goes to the bank, talks to everybody there. They all know him. And so, when people are isolated, they find little things. And if you can help them find little things, like I got a group of guys here. There's a lot of groups around the country, but there's a group right here every Tuesday morning. You get together, have coffee at McDonald's. And that's something for them to look forward to. And, if you're out there and you've got somebody, invite them to something like that, lunch.
Yeah.
It's not a financial, event to go to McDonald's for a cup of coffee, but it's something that somebody that's going down that isolation, depression path, that could be a huge thing for them to give them something to look forward to.
Exactly.
So those are the kind of things that I advocate and encourage. I've seen work over the years. And I know for me, it's just, if I can share this, and this is what I really appreciate you letting me get the message out today, is because if we can get more folks just to realize that somebody's hurting in our busy world, that we're all tied up in our lives, and that's good, to tell a story. If you're really hurting, the best way to fix that is reach out and help somebody.
Yeah.
Because that'll help you, help them, and that'll go away. So that's sort of my soapbox. I like to get up on and say, look, there's things out there going on in people's lives. And if you could have your radar up and you could start to see things that they're doing. Another one is that somebody will start to get their financials in order. They maybe never had a will. They maybe never had a trust, or they might be sharing with somebody, here's my financial information. Here's the phone numbers on my family. I just want you to have those. Well, they're saying, in case something happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So having your radar up is huge.
Wow. Yeah, it's something else, and I've said this millions of times, and people got to realize too, when you're out and about, you see somebody, even if you don't know them, smile, say hello, because you could be saving that person's life. But it's amazing how many people will just walk by with their head down, not even looking at anybody. Well, don't say a word.
There's a story about that. There's a guy that wrote a note, put it in a plastic bag, and put it in his pocket. And he started walking across the Golden Gate Bridge. And he got to the highest point of the bridge, and he jumped off. And when they found the note, what it said was, I'm going to walk across this bridge. And if not one person smiles at me, I'm going to jump off.
Wow.
He was at the end of his rope. He had determined in his mind that he just couldn't, get anybody. Everybody had their head down. Like I said, your head down, you don't realize nobody cared. So a lot of that, we'll talk about something else too here. You don't mind me just talking to you. I mean, I'm talking a lot.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
There's a cycle that people get into, and it's called victim. And then it's called persecutor. And then it's called rescuer. So what happens is somebody becomes a victim. They think that the world's down on them. It always happens to them. And, they get this victim attitude. Well, then they get to a certain point that they start to lash out on people. And they become a persecutor. And they're angry and they're mad at everybody. And it started off because they were a victim. They were beat up so much. They thought they were beat up so much. And then they become a rescuer. And what happens is I'm so sorry. Like they feel bad that they yelled at you or they did something. And so then they start to come and they try to be nice to you again. If you are aware, you can think maybe somebody's in that cycle. And what's the best way to stop the cycle, I always get asked, is to help them not be a victim anymore. That's the best way. But so when people get into that, that's just really a cycle that victim will then take them farther and farther away from people sometimes. And that's goes down that path. There's a suicide in our country every 11 minutes. I don't know if you know that. And every time there is a suicide, there's 135 people affected. I mean, there's friends and family and people. A lot of times somebody's affected. You didn't actually know the person, but you knew the family.
Yeah.
So there's a big ripple effect. And I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. We try to encourage that when you work with us or you read the book, you're equipped. You're like, man, I feel better because you know what? Like when I go out and I sit there and I listen to somebody and I have no idea. Sometimes I don't even know what they're talking about, but they're telling me something and I know that they're not going to talk to anybody else. I feel empowered. I feel good that I was able to do something.
Yes.
And so that's what we want people to feel about the space is that I'm able to reach out. I've got some skills. And the best thing is that you can help somebody get help. So that the title of Be the One, and I'll just say this, it puts a big burden on somebody. I don't want to like be the one that if something happens to you, if you are successful at taking your own life, then I have this huge guilt feeling that I couldn't help. So we encourage people to help somebody get help. So if you're in this situation where somebody's going down the path and are abusing drugs and alcohol, then you need a professional.
Yes.
You don't have a skill set. I know myself, I failed at that several times trying to help an alcoholic not be an alcoholic. It's just a tough road. And you need a professional to get that. So we encourage people to reach out, try to help them get help. If they're the kind of person that won't even call a suicide hotline, help them dial that 988. Stay with them while they do it. Just help them. That's all you need to do. You don't have to have this big burden on your back that, oh my gosh, if I get started in this, I'm going to be responsible for this person's life. It's huge. So there's a lot of things out there, and it's just really helping that person reach out. Maybe getting them down to a Legion Hall where they can hang with some buddies.
Yeah.
A Legion VFW hall. I can remember it was in San Diego when I was talking to a guy, and we were talking about the Legion. His dad was a member of the Legion, and his dad had passed away. And he said, at the funeral, a bunch of his buddies came from the Legion post. I think it was post number 6 down there. And he said, I never realized all the things that my dad had gone through in the war because he wouldn't talk about them.
Exactly, yeah.
He wouldn't share them. And we learned from his buddies down there of all these things that had happened to him and he hadn't been involved in. And so I encourage guys to get down there and get into some of these veteran groups, whether it's the Legion or VFW or DAV, because you can share. You may not share like this is how I feel, but you can share. And I've heard some of these atrocities that guys have been through, and at least you can share them with somebody that's not going to get freaked out. That's not going to throw up and just go, oh my God, I can't believe that. And the same thing with firefighters, the same thing with law enforcement. We're involved with law enforcement. They have things that they're carrying around, and the only person that really may understand that is another buddy that's been through it. I get it.
And they go through a lot. They see it every day.
Right.
I mean, I know veterans, we see a lot, but you can ask any veteran and they'll tell you when it comes to the first responders, holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh God, I feel for them.
Well, sure.
I do.
We had a time and we still have it now, but there was a lot of suicide by cop.
Yeah.
And the aftermath of that was the poor cop.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge thing in their life that happened, and they had a tremendous amount of feelings, and they really need to get some counseling around that. And so, as we exchange ideas and how my whole thing is how can I, as an individual, have an impact on this space?
Yeah.
And those are some of the tools that we try to bring forward. And we want people to reach out. We want them to help people reach out, not to try to be so burdened that if I start talking to somebody, I'm going to be responsible for their life.
Well, and I want to talk about that a minute here with the Helping Heroes. Explain what the support angel is. Support angels.
Support angels are people that have been through some of our programs, and they've acquired a skill set.
Okay.
And they can refer. In other words, it's just a nice way to say helper or buddy or, we found it
almost like a peer recovery coach in the addiction world.
Yeah. It's somebody, there's a difference between coaching somebody and just holding somebody accountable. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like if I hold you accountable to meet me every Tuesday at McDonald's for coffee, I may not know a damn thing about helping you with your drug addiction.
Right.
But all I know is I've held you accountable to that, something you committed to, and then you're going to get help. So I maybe can hold you accountable to getting help, but I don't necessarily have to understand what I need to help you go through.
It's being a good mentor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And which is important. And in all honesty, I think that is something that not just veterans, but I think a lot of people are missing, are good mentors, either that or they don't even realize that they have a mentor.
Yeah.
Because they don't listen. Well, and mentors are important, very important.
Well, that's where that breakaway, that isolation, they lose that. And, that's where it's good we have a program that reaches out to people, like the Be the One program. They're reaching out, they're calling, doing buddy calls and stuff like that. But you can't let people just fall into a black hole.
No.
So any kind of organization, and there's a lot of things available that veterans, now pickleball is an easier sport to pick up.
Oh my God.
And but that gives somebody, you're involved. You're not isolated. You're not in that woe is me. You're not that victim role. And I think that's important.
That's it. Pickleball is freaking huge now. I mean, I love it because you see a lot of seniors playing it.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet. My luck, I'd probably trip over my own 2 feet trying to do it.
There's a lot of sports. If you look at things over the years, racquetball got huge.
I loved playing racquetball and handball.
Yeah. So what happened was, at the time, I owned a company called Duraflex Sports Products. We manufactured exercise equipment and water skis and skateboards. Matter of fact, we were so big, we manufactured 6,000 skateboards a day.
Wow.
And racquetball was becoming hot. We were actually acquired by Carlson Industries. They're about an $8 billion conglomerate, and they had they owned Omega racquetball racket. And so I toured around a lot playing racquetball. But one of the things that we're talking about here is there's easy entry sports. It's a lot easier, like 2 guys that just are uncoordinated could go in and smack a racquetball around or pickleball around. This is different than tennis. Tennis takes more of a skill set because you've got to be able to serve that ball over the net and return it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's sports that are just an easier pickup. And I think the popularity where all of a sudden you see things skyrocket, like racquetball. I mean, they couldn't build racquetball courts fast enough. Like pickleball, one of the fastest growing sports. It's because it's an easy entry point. You can have a lower skill set and get involved in it. And I think that's great. I think there's a lot of activities we need like that. Like I golf a lot. And, it's kind of funny. There's 50% of the golfers never break 100, and like 3% of the golfers ever break 80. So there's a lot of guys out there golfing. There's a lot of guys out there buying real expensive golf balls and golf equipment, but they're just not good golfers. But you can go out there and golf. In other words, one of the things I knew about tennis was if the ball, if you served it, number one, you didn't get it over the net. Number two, if the person didn't return it, that was the end. There was no volley.
Yeah, right.
Right? So you didn't really ever get going because you both failed on the first part of it. And I got my buddy Amato, that brought me into the Legion. There's 2 ways to find water. There's a thing called a dicker rod that you walk around and it points down, and then there's a golf ball. So those are the best ways to find water. So my buddy Amato, he uses a golf ball. He can find water out there. He can sometimes find water on a golf course that doesn't have water. But he's out there having fun, and he's hanging with the guys, and we're all out there. So
it is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to play with people that don't, they don't care that, they take 3 shots or whatever, and they're not getting upset throwing clubs in the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so those are the kind of things that in a success mode are just getting people involved in things. And so that's why we did a lot of golf clinics. So a golf clinic was where we would take 20, 30 vets, and we'd go to a golf course and have it all set up. And we'd have an instructor out there, and they'd be on the driving range and putting and chipping game. And we'd have different golf coaches out there just to help them get exposed and to start to figure that if they wanted to play golf, they could then buddy up and play golf. And at the time, one of our partners on a national basis was American Golf. And so we had a special rate for veterans. And that was our thing, was to just, show them how to hold a golf club, how to swing the club, how to putt a little bit. And it just gets people out. And that's, that's our whole thing, is to get them out of depression and to encourage as many people out there as we can to identify when somebody's struggling.
I've always found golf to be a nice stress reliever. There are some people that will get stressed over it when they play. To me, it was always a stress reliever. I haven't played in years. I need to get back to doing it. But I didn't care if the ball went into the water, into the woods, which it seemed to happen a lot, into the sand trap. I didn't care. We were just out there having a good time.
Yeah.
And it was a blast.
I get to play 4
go ahead.
days a week. So we live on a golf course. So I get to play 4 days a week. So it's kind of, it gets to a point where it gets pretty intense, but it's still a good outlet.
Oh, yeah. So what is actually one word that you think every veteran deserves to hear? One word.
Gratitude.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, thank you for your service is kind of sometimes I just didn't want to say that, it's so cliche. Yeah. But the gratitude, that understanding that what somebody sacrificed to protect our country, a couple of years ago through the Legion, we started a movement of welcoming home Vietnam vets. So what that was all about was there was a pin, and we got it from the government. There was a pin, and there was 2 proclamations signed by a couple of presidents thanking them for their service, so to speak. And what we started doing was having dinners. And I remember the first one we didn't know what to expect. At the Palm Springs Post, we had 100 guys show up. And these guys,
wow.
These are guys all in their 60s, right? And they're lining up, and we've got officers there, with our covers on, our American Legion covers,
right,
all putting the pins on guys, giving them these 2 proclamations, and thanking them for their service. Well, my gosh, then all of a sudden we went to another post, and the word started getting around, and guys would line up, and they'd have dinner. But I mean, they're not all homeless guys; they're guys that are businessmen and stuff like that. But they were Vietnam vets, and they're like, "My God, we've waited all these years for somebody to really thank us for what we did," And so that's a movement, and I think it's still going on. I think it's still rotating through different posts and things where. And gosh, if there's a commander here or somebody in the Legion that's listening and they haven't done it, it's an amazing experience to be able to pin that pin on a guy and say thank you and hand on these 2 documents. And it's just, I couldn't believe it. Guys were lined up for maybe 15, 20 minutes, while we had this whole event going on. It was huge.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, because the Vietnam vets and even the Korean War vets, it's like a lot of people were spitting on them.
Yep.
They didn't get the gratitude. And actually, there were even some veterans, like World War II veterans, that were giving the Vietnam veterans a hard time.
Right.
Yeah. And it's sad. I mean, you can't control what the government is going to, tells you to do. Well, you can, but then you go AWOL and you get locked up.
Right.
But it's, when we sign that paper, we are technically a part of the government.
Yeah.
They are our boss. We have to do what they say. That's just the way it is.
A lot of that backlash.
Do we like it? Not always.
In the 60s, I was in college in the 60s, so there was a lot of demonstrating going on. There was a lot of the educational system. You had a lot of, I'm going to just say, left-wing liberal professors that were just against the war, and they bred that environment. And it was just tough duty. But you think about that and think how bad that was, but how good it is now that we can thank these guys. And, I'm happy every time we have one of those events to go to it, to be able to be there and see the guys line up. And you got guys come out, different commanders and regional guys and district guys come out and help pin the pins on them. It's very cool.
And I don't know if there's numbers out there or not. And if there is, I'm sure it's probably very high. But when it comes to veterans and the different eras, what World War II, Korea War, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and all that, do we know which era had the highest number of suicides? I would think it would have been Vietnam.
Well, I don't know if we have it broken down that way, but I can tell you that we've had more suicides than we've had lost people in war.
From Vietnam or all together?
All the wars together.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I do know that.
Yeah. Now we lose, there's probably less than 200,000 World War II veterans still around.
Yeah.
And we lose about 5,000 a month. And now that's going to be the same cycle with the Vietnam vets. As guys are getting into their 60s and 70s, we're going to start losing them. But I think the climate now and how we've shifted and how we feel about our military for the most part of our country is really a better climate than it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're starting to see that too, even with the respect towards and the gratitude towards the first responders.
Yeah. Well,
you're starting to see that.
It's interesting. So talking to some first responders, and we work with some law enforcement agencies. So
you're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back. Let me take a moment to talk about a sponsor I trust and highly recommend, EcoCool HVAC. One thing I love about these folks is how clear and upfront they are. Have you ever wondered whether bigger HVAC systems heat or cool faster? Well, here's a spoiler. They don't. In fact, oversized units can cost you more in the long run. EcoCool helps you get the right system, not the biggest. And that saves you money while keeping you comfortable. They're not in the business of overselling. They're in the business of doing it right the first time. Plus, they're veteran-owned, which means they bring discipline, honesty, and service to every job. Whether you need heating repairs, a system upgrade, or just some honest answers, EcoCool HVAC is the team to call. They offer same-day service and free replacement quotes. Give them a call at 443-324-9714. Again, that's 443-324-9714, or visit EcoCoolHVAC.com. That's EcoCoolHVAC.com. With EcoCool, you don't just get HVAC, you get peace of mind.
They can put an ad in the paper for a fireman, and by 10 o'clock, they've got 4,000 applicants.
Mm-hmm.
They can put an ad in the paper for a sheriff or a police officer, and by 10 o'clock, they've got 2.
Yeah.
So that hot seat, and we're shifting. I think we're shifting away from that era that we went through a little while ago, hating law enforcement, and people realizing that you need it. Now, talking to, I remember I was golfing with a former police chief of L.A., and he said that crime in a community is based on how much the community is willing to tolerate it.
Mm.
And he said, if you look at different communities, they just don't have any tolerance for it. And they're either through the police or the way they're voting or the way their funding is that they're just not going to tolerate crime. But there's other people that just have learned to live with it. And that's just their environment. And I think what we're seeing now is a crossover in our nation where people are saying, hey, we don't want 26 shootings on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We had enough of that. And so I think we're on a good trend. I think we're on a really good trajectory to make that not be the norm and not what we'll tolerate anymore.
Yeah, I see that, or at least I believe I see it as well.
Yeah.
With the Helping Heroes,
Mhm.
because you say you started in 2017, and right now you're strictly based in California, right?
Yeah, right now, I have to tell you, Helping Heroes USA is a self-funded, pretty much self-funded nonprofit.
Right.
And, so you don't see us on TV, advertising, get money, and things like that. We're pretty much self-funded. But what we engage with, let's say on a national basis, is we've worked with Frank over at Tunnels to Towers.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been involved I think there's people out there that deliver programs that are really entrenched with that. We worked on a project down here at March Air Force Base where Tunnels to Towers came in and they were like the bank. And
okay.
The Legion was like the screening of who would live in these apartments. But then the DAV, or U.S. vets actually, were the ones that were on site. So you had different skill sets. You had U.S. vets there helping vets get their ratings. You had Tunnel Towers come in and they were the financial engine. And you had the Legion helping screen who could be in there. So there's some good being done. And that's what I think that we do. I think the role that Helping Heroes does is we help with some of these relationships and working with other veterans organizations that can deliver services. Like, for example, we're not going to train service dogs.
Right.
But if we can help an organization that's doing that, we've done that, then that's the role as Helping Heroes, as our brand. There's a good brand out there. Helping Heroes USA is a good brand. So if we can help that, if we can support that, and just like we're doing with different Legion posts and things like that. So that's our mission.
Okay.
And getting out there and really, creating awareness to people that are at risk, that are potential to have death by suicide. That's a big plan that we have, big program.
And you guys are a 501c3, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're fine. Yeah.
So something very important here, Tony. How do people either make a donation to Helping Heroes USA or become a sponsor?
On our website, helpingheroesusa.org, we'll have people donate. A lot of the grassroots kind of relationships that we have is where we've gotten funding. Mm-hmm. We've gotten some funding from different corporations, and we've had around our symposiums, like we're doing one, let's say we're doing one in Riverside. We've got a credit union involved that's sponsoring. We've got a bank. We've got a auto repair guy. We've got a car dealer. So we kind of work around different locations like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we use a Legion post as a location for one of our symposiums.
Okay.
So
no, go ahead.
So my business plan that we wanted, because we wanted to do some marketing tests before we just roll it out on a national basis. We want
okay.
In other words, we want to make sure our message is honed. And I think I told you that we shifted from the suicide prevention, and now we're going more to success. So in my background, I owned a company called Lifetime Management. In Lifetime Management, we printed, we did time management seminars, produced the systems, and we had a couple of different programs. We did a thing called Train the Trainer, where we would go in a corporation, like 3M. We'd go in and train all their trainers to deliver our program. And we would work with other corporations would want us to bring a trainer in. Mm-hmm. So I think the way to grow this on a large scale is to take our workshop, where we're going to end up calling it, which we'll know pretty soon. Let's just call it a symposium for now, and have a canned program that we put together and empower different Legion posts to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't conflict with Be the One. It's sort of an adjunct to Be the One. It's like an additive as opposed to being a conflict. So when our plan is to build this package that anybody around the country then could do this workshop, and they could go through and we'll probably put a PowerPoint with it, to help guide the instructor through. It's the way we used to do it, and just talk about the different stages and have it as an empowerment package and help identify people that are at risk in that community.
I like that.
That's our expansion plan. And it's just, I didn't want to just jump out there and be all over and it didn't work, and it's always, it's good to keep it close to home right now in Southern California. We're finding out what works and has the most impact. And that's the way we expand.
That's smart, because there are a lot of people, and a nonprofit is a business, but there are a lot of people that will start it right up and try to make it the biggest thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't do that. You have to take those small steps first, see what works. And then if it does work, then go on to the next step. And then I like the idea, what you said, you're more or less collaborating with Be the One. And I think that's important.
Yeah, there's some other nonprofits that are out there. There's a group out of Montana where the guy that leads that group actually is a suicide survivor. He shot himself in the head and survived. And
wow.
Yeah. So he's got a couple of groups going, and they're like, breakfast at Denny's, lunch at Denny's, that kind of group, and he's providing a great service. Now, he doesn't have so from a businessman standpoint, from my businessman side of me, is to create a scalable product, a scalable model.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that's what we're doing, as opposed to where it's the founder driven. It's like the guy in Montana is a great guy, and he's got a wonderful story and a way to work with people, but he doesn't really have the ability to scale that on a national basis. But now maybe we'll partner with him and make part of what his message be part of our message.
Right.
So there's just looking at it on a national basis, and you brought it up. I don't think there's any programs, or there's not a lot of programs that are successful, because every year our suicide rate goes up.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we've had a 4% increase the last 2 years with women. So, and we have youth now. And so if you look at some of the drivers, like with youth, bullying is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they get cyberbullied. Now, there's just a thing that was actually just in front of Congress about 2 weeks ago, that there's companies that have created these chatbots that actually they encourage somebody to commit suicide.
Yeah, I've seen that.
There was a dad that his son, with this chatbot relationship, had been encouraged 1,100 times, and he finally took his life. So that's a whole other space that we're diving into. On the other end of the spectrum, on the senior side, you have chronic pain as a driver.
Yeah.
It's just people are just living with chronic pain to a point where they just can't take it anymore. So the space is not going away.
No.
We just need to get better at it. And we need to let people understand more what's happening in people's lives, and people care more. Compassion. I struggle with the word. When you said to me, what's the one word? I had 2 words come into my head. And the one I said was gratitude, which I think was important. The other one was compassion.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was a great question. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, too, what a lot of people don't realize, and you mentioned the teens and the kids, when it comes to veteran suicide, a lot of people, they don't understand that, and you mentioned it before, it is a ripple effect, because if they have kids,
mm-hmm.
some of those kids end up taking their own lives as well, because it's hard for them, and even the wives, the spouses, it's hard for them to deal with.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not with just veterans, it's anybody that, unfortunately takes their own life. It can affect everybody in the family in the worst way.
I was in a situation where a dad had committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And the son was around 12 or 14. And people in the family started saying, well, you're just like your dad. You're depressed and you're isolated and you're just like your dad. Well, that's almost like setting them up to fail.
Mm-hmm.
People don't think about what they're planning into somebody's brain. and definitely there's a stigma that's attached. I remember the first time I encountered suicide. I was in high school, and on the football team, we had two brothers, twin brothers. Their dad committed suicide, and we all went to the funeral as a team, and all of that. And there was a real stigma attached to what's wrong with these guys, and that still exists in some places today. That once it happens in a family, then that family gets identified with somebody committed suicide in their family. We have to stop doing that as a society.
Yeah.
We got to stop that.
All right. So, Tony, I want to do some rapid fire questions with you.
Okay.
But before I do that and then get to my last question, is there anything you want to add?
I think you've done a great job as an interviewer to bring out what our mission is. And our mission is to really just get the message out there, to make people aware, to help them get their radar up, give them some ideas of what some of the drivers are that are driving people, things that happen. You may have a couple that's been married for 60 years and the life partner dies. Now you've got somebody that's all alone and they're struggling with that. They're a candidate.
Yes.
They're a candidate. So just talking, getting our message out to as many people as you can and saying, look at, it's all around you. There's one every 11 minutes. And just, so that's my one parting shot. I think I would say that we haven't, just to kind of capsulize what we've talked about.
And the thing is, everybody listening, you start talking to people, look for the signs. We can change that one in every 11 minutes to one in every 11 hours, then one in 11 days, one in 11 months, one in 11 years. Compassion goes a long way. Mm-hmm. It goes a long way. And if we and I keep thinking about that story you talked about with the man walking across the Golden Gate Bridge with that note in his pocket.
Yeah.
If somebody would have just smiled and said hi,
yep,
he would have still been here.
Yep.
All right. So I've never done this. You ready for some of these rapid fire questions?
Well, we'll see. We'll see how well I do here. So I feel like
we'll see how well I do, because I've never done this.
Okay.
All right. So what's the trait you admire most in the veterans you work with?
I think their ability to sacrifice, their ability to put aside everything that they've had going on in their life and step out of that and go serve.
Okay. One thing civilians often get wrong about the veteran community.
I think a lot of times there's some civilians out there that are jealous because they hear about benefits that veterans get and they want to know why they don't get them.
Oh, God, yeah. And the thing is, a lot of veterans don't even take advantage of those benefits.
Right.
I know I don't.
Yeah, there's things like home loans and stuff like that, and people feel like they should be entitled. We have an entitlement mentality. So I think that's probably the thing that I have noticed the most.
What's the biggest myth about suicide prevention?
I think there's that's a good one. There's a lot of money spent on research, and there's TBI, which is traumatic brain injury that can lead to PTSD that leads then to suicide. But I think that the myth is that one of the things I find is people are doing that to get attention. There's a stigma that says, well, you're just, you might run into somebody and they're having a little suicide discussion. Well, you're just trying to get attention.
Yeah.
Well, no, they are. They're trying to get attention. Like, help me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is a good one. All right. So finish this sentence. A hero is someone who.
First thing that comes to mind is will show up.
I like that.
Whatever the situation is, whether it's somebody, last Sunday I was sitting here at my desk. My desk looks out over the golf course, and there's a bike path, and all of a sudden this woman had a little trailer on the back of her bike. I tried to go up the hill, and she fell over. So I ran out there and helped her pick it up. It's a small thing, but that's the kind of more of those actions that we have.
Yeah.
Are what everyday heroes are. I think we hear that everyday hero, and that's important. I mean, there's heroes. There's guys like I remember coaching. We made 3 cents an hour, and we sacrificed a lot just to be a coach, to be out there with the kids and to help them. There's heroes everywhere you look. Matter of fact, one of the things it's a good question, because with helping heroes, we've given out some awards, but they've been not all to veterans or first responders.
Mm-hmm.
They've been sometimes to educators. We work with the Napoleon Hill Foundation.
Oh, yes.
And Don Green, who's the CEO of that, we gave him one of our awards a couple of years ago because of the work that they do. So I think hero is a broad term, which is a good term, I think. And it's somebody that will just step up.
Yeah. All right, you ready? I like this question.
Right.
What is Coco Bear's superpower?
It's funny about Coco Bear. Coco Bear was a rescue. He was in the Palm Springs Animal Shelter for the first 3 years of his life. He was adopted 9 times and returned for being too wild. But I'll tell you what his superpower is. And we work with a lot of veterans and stuff, but I've seen him go right up to somebody in a wheelchair and get up. He's 75 pounds. He's a big boy. He'll get up there and lick their face. And I had a guy cry and say, you know what? I haven't had anybody hug me for 2 years. And you'll see somebody on a walker and he'll go over to them and they'll pet him. We're in the market and those little ride around carts they have for people.
Yes.
He'll go right over to them and they'll start petting them. And so what happens is people start telling me stories about when they lost their dog. And so I think his greatest superpower, and of course he keeps me in check, is he just has this ability to go up to people that are in need. And he'll lean up against them. And I remember we did at Newport Legion Post, second largest post in the country. We had a luncheon for World War II vets. And most of those guys are on walkers or wheelchairs. And by chance, I ended up sitting near the beginning of the buffet line. And guys are coming through, and Coco Bear was sitting there, and he would go up to them, and they would stop, and they would pet him, and they would reach over the side of their wheelchair, and they'd try to kiss him and hug him, and he would just sit there. Next veteran would come along, same thing. So that's what I see as his superpower. And he's sleeping right here on my feet, but that was a great question. I like that because that's something that. That's not a coachable thing. That's just a talent.
No.
That's just something inbred in him, whatever that is. That's what's in him to be able to understand that somebody on one of those little carts or on a walker or a wheelchair needs something.
And what kind of dog is he?
He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback and a Lab.
I never heard of that.
It's only 4% of the dogs. Their nickname. They were bred in South Africa, and their nickname is Lion Killers.
Okay.
So he's got Lab in him. When you look at him, he looks like a bear. That's how he got his name. They named him at the shelter, and when we went to see if we wanted to adopt him, I said Coco Bear, and he snapped his head around, and he knew his name, and that wasn't going to change. And
wow.
The way we saw him was they did a video with him to promote the shelter, and it was a thing called instead of Starbucks, it was called Star Pups, and they had a Starbucks setup, but he sat there and the girl talked to him, and they made a different kind of a dog treat sundae with whipped cream and all that. And that was my wife happened to see that and said, "We've got to go see this dog," and
oh man!
And I didn't want to adopt him because everything they said about him, they said he's wild. He has a separation anxiety. He escapes from the shelter every night, and I'm like, that's the last thing I need. And boy, but pretty soon we got him disciplined, we got him trained, and he's been a great dog.
One of the best moves you made, isn't it?
It was a great move. Changed, and we've been on the cover. It's funny. We've been on the covers of some magazines together. In the golf cart. I take him to golf. He sits in the cart, and he knows when it's hot, he'll jump out of the cart and go sit under a tree until he hit the ball, and then he'll meet us at the ball. And, guys love it. It's really interesting. It's funny. I didn't know.
Very smart dog.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows to stay out of the way, and he doesn't chase the ball. People go, oh, I guess he gets the ball for you. I go, no, he didn't chase the ball. He knows he doesn't go on the green, on the putting green. And so... Anyways,
man.
So he's been a real asset for me. I had TBI in my cycling days. I cycling in groups of big packs of guys, you end up in the hospital a lot.
Yeah.
And the last major crash I had, they found me unconscious in the street. And I had gotten a little bit of TBI and a little bit of PTSD along with that, along with a bunch of concussions from playing football. But my doctor recommended that you get a service dog, and so we decided to get him.
Wow.
That's one thing is that, TBI or PTSD is not just for first responders or the military.
No, it's not.
And in my football background, working with a lot of athletes, actually they're saying there's a lot of it where kids hit these balls in soccer.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of TBI that's happening and which can become a part of PTSD. So there's a lot going on in the world. And I think, podcast, doing a service like you're doing is helping people get the word out and create awareness.
People are talking about it more this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's a great service that you're providing. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. So the last question depends on you.
Okay.
I need you to pick a number between 1 and 100.
7.
7. Why does everybody always pick the low numbers?
Well, 7 is a biblical number. And so,
well, yeah.
And so, I could pick 50, which is my old football number. I could pick that.
No, 7's good. This is a good question.
All right.
What's a small act of kindness you witnessed or experienced that profoundly impacted you?
Been a lot of them. I think learning to, I'm going to say this, I could always tell somebody, this is very interesting, I learned this in business and also in my dating career, was how does somebody treat the waiter or the waitress? How do they treat them? It's a test you get all the time, see? Are they compassionate? Are they demanding? They look down at them. I can remember being involved in companies where we would have lunches, and we'd invite everybody from the custodian, from the custodian, the workers and the executives. And when I went to visit Rick Goings, who was the chairman of the board and CEO of Tupperware, and Rick was a buddy of mine, and I went down to Florida, and we met at the Tupperware. The Tupperware Worldwide facility was, it looks like the Kennedy Center. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. It's quite a thing.
Oh, wow.
And Rick goes, come on, we're in his office. He goes, let's go have lunch. Well, he goes down and has lunch in the cafeteria. Not a separate dining room, not an executive dining room. He went down there and had lunch. And they come by and say, hey, Mr. Goins, how you doing? Hey, everybody said hi to me, knew everybody. And so acts like that are huge. And I think if people can remember that, is to really go out of their way to my community has 5,000 homes in it. We have 2 golf courses. We got pickleball, racquetball, everything else, right? And every day when I'm walking, I see the guys, the gardeners, the pool guys, wave to them, say hi to them, and they say hi. They love it. They say hi back, And of course, they recognize me now because of Coco Bear, walking with him all the time. But those little acts like that, making them feel, stop, talk to them for a minute if it's appropriate to talk to them. I think that's where you get the most bang for your buck if you want to be compassionate.
Makes your heart grow too, doesn't it?
It does. I think it does. I think it's. I can tell you, one time I was in a Bible study and I kind of went off. I had this guy talk about celebrities helping out at charity events. And he said, well, they just go to do that because they just want to get their face in front of the camera.
Photo ops.
And I said, you know what? Let me tell you something, because I work with a lot of them. They get up sometimes at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning to get to an event, to get makeup on, to do all that, to lend their star power to help that nonprofit drive revenue.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, he asked me, one of the most gracious guys I ever met was Meadowlark Lemon.
Really?
I owned a business called You Gotta Golf, and we managed charity golf tournaments. And I met Meadowlark Lemon, and Meadowlark, we did his tournament. I love that guy. He would not. I'd have to fight with him to carry his briefcase through the airport. He would not let me do it. And you know what? He would carry deflated basketballs and a pump with him. And he'd see a kid, and he'd pump up, those red, white, and blue basketballs, the Harlem Globe.
Yes. Yep.
And he'd pump up that ball, and he'd sign it for him. And he was the most gracious guy. I tell you,
he was awesome.
He wouldn't let you carry his stuff. You have to fight with him. He's a Meadowlark, look at it, And he was a funny guy. He was funny. People would come up to him everywhere. Wherever we go, they'd come up and go, I saw you at Madison Square Gardens. I saw you at the arena. My dad took me to see you. He's a great guy. And he'd stop and talk to him. And I remember one time a guy came up and said, my dad took me to see you at the Madison Square Garden. And the guy walked away, and Meadowlark said, that guy's older than I am.
I always loved watching them guys. Him and Curly, and who was the other one? Goose?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny story. Him and Curly Neal and Keith Erickson, who played for UCLA under John Wooden, then played for the Lakers. We did a golf tournament, and that was my foursome, Meadowlark and Curly. Now, Curly was a really good golfer, and they brought a basketball. And they'd be out there throwing the ball around and doing all this stuff, and we're putting, and they was having a good time. And so what happened was Meadowlark called me one day on Thanksgiving, and he said, I want to raise some money and feed the homeless for Christmas. I said, okay. He said, I want to do a golf tournament. I said, Meadowlark, it's Thanksgiving. And you want to do this before Christmas. I don't know how we're going to do it. I said, let me think on it. I'll call you back. I thought about it. I called him back. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. If you will autograph a ball for everybody that plays, I'll do it. He said, I'll do it. Here's the number where you call to buy the balls. And he sat there and autographed the night before the tournament 144 golf balls.
Wow.
And we filled up and we printed up a certificate because I sat there with him. It was authentic.
Right.
And we filled up 144 guys, paid money to play in a golf tournament with 3 weeks' notice before Christmas, and play with Meadowlark. And we flew Curly out. He was in Florida. And what we wanted to do, this was one of the most, this is a great thing. Hole in one and different, you see these halftime shots and all that kind of stuff. That's all, that's insurance.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So Meadowlark said, look, why don't we do this? Because, he's got his hook shot. His famous hook shot. He'd go up in the stands. Mm-hmm. He practiced that every day. He was 80 years old. He practiced it every day. So I said, I'll tell you what, Meadowlark, why don't we do this? Why don't we sell tickets, raffle tickets and we'll do a hook shot. We'll set up a basketball court at the golf course. Set up a backboard, and you do a hook shot. If you make it, the person wins $250,000. Yeah. He said, great, I'll do it. I said, call the insurance company. And I said, how much will it be to insure Meadowlark Lemon to do a half-court shot for $250,000? The guy said, let me think about it for a minute. He said, it'd be $250,000. He said, he's not going to miss. So I told Meadowlark, listen, I got to tell you something. We're not going to be able to do this. He goes, well, what's the matter? And I go, I'll tell you why. I called, and to insure you for $250,000, they want $250,000. Man, he was beaming from ear to ear. He was so happy to hear that. That was the funniest thing. He was a great guy. We lost him. But
it was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. They wanted $250,000 to insure the $250,000 shot.
God. That's when you are good.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend of mine that actually played with the Harlem Globetrotters for a while.
Oh, okay.
He was, when he played with them, he was the shortest. He made history because he was the shortest player.
Okay.
On the Harlem Globetrotters. Then he left, and they got somebody even shorter. Wow. Tony, I want to thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Those of you listening, make sure you go to helpingheroesusa.org. And actually, when you're there, you can purchase Tony's book, Silent Battle, a family and friends support guide for veterans and first responders at risk of suicide. And actually, instead of just buying one book, buy several of them, because you can. I know there's a lot of people or organizations or groups that you can pass them out to. Put them in firehouses, put them at the police station, put them at the Legions, put them at the VFWs, put them everywhere. Tony, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on. You're a great host. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something from it as I did. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners and share more incredible stories. Don't forget to connect with us on social media or visit our website at conversationswithrichbennett.com for updates, giveaways, and more. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep the conversations going. It takes a lot to put a podcast together. And my sponsors help out a lot, but I also have some supporters that actually help me when it comes to the editing software, the hosting, and so forth. There's a lot that goes into putting this together. So I want to thank them. And if you can, please visit their websites, visit their businesses, support them however you can. So please visit the following. Full Circle Boards. Nobody does charcuterie like Full Circle Boards. Visit them at fullcircleboards.com. Sincerely Sawyer Photography. Live in the moment. They'll capture it. Visit them at sincerelysawyer.com. The Joppatown Lions Club. Serving the community since 1965. Visit them at joppatownlionsclub.org. And don't forget the E at the end of Joppatown, because they're extraordinary.